I am happy to be here today to talk about this subject. I want to thank Kay for letting me do this workshop from her home and for being here as support for me. I'm a first-year master gardener, so this is all pretty new to me. And so I appreciate the help. I'm going to be talking about some of the invasive plants that I have noticed in paradise that have gotten really bad lately. First, I want to just give you a little bit of background on myself. I am a paradise resident for 30 years. We did lose our home in a campfire, but we rebuilt and we've been back for about a year now. And as I said, there's a lot of plants there now in paradise that weren't there before or weren't there in such large numbers. And so I wanted to do a little research and find out more about these plants and how they can be identified and how they can be controlled, and then share that information with other people that perhaps have moved back to paradise or will be moving back. So first off, what is an invasive plant? These are some of the characteristics of invasive plants. They're non-native, they're from outside your area. They usually have very rapid growth and mature quickly and produce a lot of seeds and are very successful at dispersing their seeds. And they also frequently have rampant vegetative spread, so they can spread through their rhizomes, their roots, spread in other ways than through seed. And they mostly have the ability to outcompete native species. It's important to note, though, that plants may be invasive in some regions, but not invasive in other regions. There are many invasive plants in paradise right now, and I'm not going to be covering all of them, of course. I just have a handful that I want to talk about. And I know all of us have our favorite weeds that we love to hate. And so I apologize if your weed that you love to hate is not covered today. But I'm covering the ones that I see the most in town, taking over empty lots, those types of things. So first, what are some of the problems that are caused by invasive plants? They're so successful that they displace the native plants. They create monocultures, which reduces biodiversity, and they can have huge economic impacts. According to PlantRight, which is an organization, excuse me, devoted to educating the horticultural industry and the public about invasive plants, invasives cost us $80 million a year in economic losses. So it's a huge problem. And this photo here just shows a stand of giant reed right along the skyway. And it's an enormous, enormous plant. And I don't know how they're going to get rid of that stand there. It's huge. So what do we think of? What's the first thing you think of when you think invasive plants in paradise? Well, for those of us who live there, it's broom. We've always had a problem with broom in paradise, and we've had some valiant efforts to eradicate it, but now, excuse me, but a frog in my throat. Now it's back in even bigger than it was before. And a lot of people just refer to all the brooms as Scotch broom, but there's really several different types of brooms. French broom, Spanish broom, Portuguese broom, as well as Scotch broom. And these plants were introduced in California in the mid-1800s for landscape planting and erosion control. And they can tolerate most soil conditions. They grow very rapidly. They produce long-lived seed. And according to the California Exotic Pest Plant Council, French, Scotch, and Portuguese broom are the most invasive, and Spanish broom is a little bit less invasive.
Ellen, can I interrupt for 1 second?
Sure.
If you could you scoot closer, because it's just a little bit hard to hear.
We have the volume all the way up, so she'll try it. But why don't you take a drink? Clear her throat.
Thank you.
My mouth gets really dry when I'm nervous, so I apologize for not being loud enough and getting the frog in my throat. Okay, so first off, I want to talk about French broom, and this is the predominant type of broom in Paradise, post-campfire, and actually pre-campfire as well. It's an evergreen plant, so it keeps its leaves year-round. It has leaves in groups of 3, has yellow flowers, as do all the brooms. But in French broom, the flowers are not very fragrant. Can you guys hear me better now?
Yes, that is much better. Yeah.
Better? Okay.
Yes.
So French broom has overtaken many vacant lots in Paradise, and the image on the slide here is unfortunately the lot right next to our house. You can see that it's fence to fence broom there. You can just barely see the little satellite dish peeking out there in the middle. This is a lot that I'm not able to do anything about, and the owners are not doing anything about either. And it's really unfortunate because the broom, when it dries out, will be a highly flammable problem and increase the fire danger. This is Spanish broom. You can see it looks different from the French broom. The stems are more spiky and they're round. The Spanish broom also has the yellow flowers, but they're highly fragrant. And the leaves are very sparse and simple, and it does lose its leaves. It's a deciduous plant. I really love the smell of Spanish broom. I actually have been known to go cut the branches and put them in a vase because I love the smell so much. But, you know, it's only beautiful and fragrant in the spring, and the rest of the year it's an ugly fire hazard. The picture here is right across the street from our home. And there's some Spanish broom there. And there's other spots on our street of broom, and you'll see it all over Paradise. It's not as prominent as the French broom, but there is a lot of it, and it is in bloom right now. And this is Scotch broom. It looks very similar to the Spanish broom. It has yellow flowers, but they're not as fragrant, just slightly fragrant, and it is deciduous also. There is one way you can tell Scotch broom apart from Spanish broom. If you cut a stem and look at the cross section, Spanish broom has a round cross section, and Scotch broom will have a 5-sided cross section. So here are some of the ways to combat broom. The two primary methods are mechanical removal and treatment with herbicides. This photo shows some French broom that I pulled down near Deer Creek. It was locked at the top first, and then I pulled it out with a weed wrench and got the whole plant out. And here you see the weed wrench. This is what you need for the larger plants, but the smaller plants in the winter or spring when the soil is wet, they can be pulled easily by hand. And that's really the time to do it. When they're small and easy, once they get bigger and the land gets, the ground gets drier, you need a tool like this weed wrench. And I borrowed one from the Fire Safe Council in Paradise. They have several of them that they loan out to people, and usually for a couple of weeks at a time. And they're great tools. I got rid of most of the French broom on my street using a weed wrench that I borrowed from the Fire Safe Council. You can also cut a French broom. You can use loppers in late summer or fall to cut it. And at that time, if the plants are drought stressed, cutting can kill 30% to 80% of the plants. But if you cut in the winter or the spring, the plants will just resprout. The image here shows a medium-sized plant that was cut, and you can see all the new sprouts on it. Some people ask about goats and grazing as a control measure, and grazing doesn't give very good control unless the animals are grazing it repeatedly. It'll just keep coming back. And also broom contains chemicals that limit the amount an animal can eat each day. So they don't recommend that as the best removal method. Here's a chart that I got from the Fire Safe Council that shows you the different ways to get rid of broom at each time of year. As I said, pulling when the plants are small in the spring is the best method. So January, February, March, you can pull it. Herbicides when the plant is leafed out in May and June, or you can cut the plants in July, August, and September and apply herbicides to the stumps pretty much year round. But they do caution that when seed is on the plants in May, June, July, and August, you should not chip or haul the plants because that may spread the seed. Although the Master Gardener program doesn't recommend using herbicides or chemicals, they can be used as a last resort. Post-emergent herbicides such as triclopyr and glyphosate. But they should be used sparingly and only as a last resort. And if you're applying near water, be sure to use a product that's registered for use near water. The next invasive species I want to talk about is Tree of Heaven. And I wasn't really familiar with Tree of Heaven before doing this presentation, but now that I know what it is, I see it everywhere. It is all over Paradise. This is a fast-growing tree that is native to China. It was introduced in America in the late 1700s for use as an urban tree. Like other invasives, it tolerates poor soils and can quickly colonize an area. You'll see it a lot along roadways. And it, like other invasives produces a lot of seeds and also produces suckers through its root system. This is a photo of some tree of heaven along the Skyway. And usually you'll see not just one tree, but you'll see a dozen trees all together because it's propagating itself, spreading and growing new trees all around itself. Some other information about tree of heaven is that it produces a toxin that's distributed through its root system that will inhibit the growth of other plants around it. And it also harbors an invasive insect species, the spotted lantern fly. The species is especially dangerous due to its vegetative reproduction. Established trees with extensive root systems permit plants to resprout rapidly and vigorously. So that, in combination with the chemicals it produces, inhibiting the growth of competing plants, allows it to displace natural vegetation. Okay, so thank you. So how to control tree of heaven. The key to controlling it is to control the root system. Young plants can be pulled or dug up or cut, but the stumps and roots will generate new shoots. So cutting is most effective when it's followed by chemical application. Again, UC doesn't recommend using chemicals unless it's as a last resort. And they should be used sparingly and, of course, following label directions carefully. The recommended cut stump treatment is triclopyr. And the timing should be, I believe it's in late summer and fall when the plant is taking in sugars and transporting it to the roots. It'll take in that chemical and take it into the roots and make it more effective at killing the plant. Another plant that's very invasive that we have all over paradise now is Himalayan Blackberry. It was interesting learning about this plant. I didn't know much about it, even though it's all over Deer Creek and all over Deer Creek Lane. I found that it was introduced by Luther Burbank in the late 1800s. He introduced it into the Northwest. And it really liked it there, and it took over, and it's taken over in California as well. The scrambling habit of the blackberry smothers other plants pretty quickly. It can block access to pastures and waterways. It can also host Pierce's disease, which is a deadly disease of grapevines. And it can injure livestock if they graze it. I discovered how to tell Himalayan blackberry from the native California blackberry. Himalayan blackberry has 5 leaflets, and the California blackberry has only 3. So what we have growing on our street is all Himalayan blackberry. It resprouts very quickly when cut, invading many empty lots in paradise. The picture here is on Deer Creek Lane When I was taking out all of the French broom by the creek, I also cut all of the blackberry, and within a couple months, you can see it's all back there. One other thing that I found out that was pretty interesting, I noticed a lot of the blackberry leaves have this orange stuff all over them. So I did a little research on that. And I found that that is a systemic fungal disease that's spread by spores that are carried on wind or water, and that this infects plants for life. It doesn't kill the plant, but it does severely weaken the plant and inhibit fruit production. So that's a good thing. Hopefully it'll slow down the growth of these plants in paradise. So to control Himalayan blackberry, this is difficult again. It can regenerate from the crown or from rhizomes. Mowing is not effective because that stimulates suckers. And a single cultivation can fragment the rhizomes and spread the plant that way. But if you repeatedly till, it can control it. One thing I've noticed is in cutting down the blackberries, for one thing, I was told that the weed wrench would work on blackberries, and I found that it wasn't very effective. It just pulls off the crown, and you know the roots don't come out, so it just regrows. But if you keep coming back and cutting it over and over again and trying to dig out the crown area, then that can begin to control it. Also, the foliar herbicides such as glyphosate can be effective. Again, product labels should be used, followed carefully, and the chemicals should be used sparingly. Pokeweed. Pokeweed is another one I did not know that much about, but it is everywhere in paradise now. I only had seen it once in my neighborhood prior to the campfire, and now I see it all over the place. This is a non-woody shrub that's native to the eastern United States. It can get really big. It can grow up to 10 feet tall and 5 feet wide. It's also called poke salad, poke salad, pokeberry, inkberry, and other names. I remember there was a song called Poke Salad Annie back when I was growing up. If you're of a certain age, you'll remember that song. And it has a history of being used for food, for medicine, herb, to make dyes and inks and more. It actually, some people think it's a really pretty plant. And when it has the berries hanging on it, it does look kind of pretty. It flowers in midsummer. So here's some flowers that are growing on a plant near my home. And a single plant can produce up to 7,000 seeds annually. It's important to know that all parts of the plant are poisonous. Although people have eaten pokeweed, they have it has to be prepared in a certain way to make it non-poisonous. All of the plant parts, especially the roots, contain saponins and oxalates and can be fatally toxic when eaten raw. And here you see the pretty dark purple berries in the summertime. So this picture here, I just took the other day. The plants are getting pretty big now in paradise. And This is interesting because when they die back, they leave a big old skeleton, just ugly as can be. And so there's a whole bunch of these pokeweed skeletons all around town. And now this year's crop of pokeweed is just growing right up through the skeletons. And this photo here is of a little pokewood forest right across the street from where we live. So it is just everywhere. How to control pokeweed. Monitor for new seedlings under tree canopies because birds eat the berries and spread the seeds. And hand pulling is effective, but only when the plants are small. If the plant is established, you need to dig it out with a shovel, and you can do that, but it can be difficult. This is another plant that a weed wrench will not work on because the stem is not woody, it's soft, and it makes the plant easy to cut, but pretty much impossible to pull it out by the root. So you have to dig it out. Again, foliar herbicides can be used after leaves have developed, and they recommend products containing glyphosate or triclopyr. Used sparingly and only as a last resort. The last plant I want to talk about today is giant reed. When I was considering what plants to include in this presentation, I really hadn't thought about giant reed. I wasn't familiar with it at all, but one of the other master gardeners had mentioned it in an email, so I looked into it. And I just thought of it as something that would be more prevalent in the valley where there's more rivers and streams, and that's just where I pictured it growing. It's a tall perennial grass that can grow to over 20 feet in height, native to India, and it was introduced in this country in the 1800s, both as an ornamental and erosion control species. And as I said, I didn't think we had much of that in Paradise, but I was wrong. Here we have giant reed right on my street, right in Deer Creek, which I had never even noticed before. And you can see how big it is. I mean, that's me there. It's like, I don't know how tall that is, but it's a huge plant. And I think I never noticed it before because there were trees. There were trees all around, and it probably was camouflaged, but now it sticks out like a sore thumb. The giant reed reproduces through rhizomes. It has long interconnecting roots and can create debris dams, choking out streams and rivers and crowding out native plants. Here you see that, that same stand of giant reed right along the skyway that I had earlier. And also this is all French broom right below it. So this is a big flammable mess right here. I don't know if the town's gonna do anything about that. Hopefully that'll be one of their priorities after they get rid of all the dead trees. Giant reed ignites really easily and can create intense fires, and it's actually adapted to fire and will resprout aggressively after a fire. It's one of the fastest growing plants in the world, and that enables it to quickly invade new areas that have been disturbed by flood or fire or human activities. How to manage giant reed. When the plants are less than 6 feet in height and arising from a new stem or rhizome, hand pulling can be effective. You can chop or cut or mow, but it usually requires tractor mounted equipment. And mechanical eradication is difficult because of the rhizomes buried underground, and they will resprout. Plants will resprout after burning as well. You can use systemic herbicides applied as a cut stump treatment or a foliar spray. With the same cautions as I've mentioned before, using as a last resort, using sparingly, following label directions carefully. And again, make sure that you're using a product that is registered for use around water, because this is a plant that you'll find in water or by water. I'd like to conclude my presentation with a little bit of information about the Plant Right organization. For those of us who have rebuilt or will be rebuilding our homes in paradise, we're re-landscaping our yards. And it's important to know which plants that are sold in nurseries might become invasive, and we might want to avoid planting them in our yards. Plant Right is an organization that educates California's nurseries about invasive plants, and they promote the use of non-invasive alternatives. They conduct an annual survey of nurseries to see what's being sold. They're actually conducting a survey right now. I volunteered to survey one nursery in Butte County, the one in Paradise. And but they're surveying hundreds of nurseries all across the state. And they've been doing this for about 8 years, the surveys. And they have a list that they update regularly of what they call their priority invasive garden plants. And so that's the list you see here: pampas grass, green fountain grass, Mexican feathergrass, highway ice plant, vinca major, yellow flag iris, and water hyacinth. And I had one of these plants in my yard prior to campfire. I had Mexican feathergrass, and I can tell you from personal experience, it's definitely invasive. I mean, I had one plant, then the following year, they were popping up all over the yard. And I'm still actually pulling out feathergrass from my yard even after campfire. Plant Right also has a list of plants to watch. If you go to their website, you can see what plants they're keeping an eye on that they're thinking might become invasive in the future. They also have a list of plants that they have, they call success stories, that they have retired from the do not buy list because nurseries are not selling them anymore. Most of the brooms have been retired from the list, thankfully, although I did see a broom, I think at Lowe's within the last few months. So I don't know if that was like a sterile one or if that was the kind that's going to spread, but they did have it there. One thing I also noticed in Billy Park, I see this yellow flag iris in the stream there in the park. And so I let them know that they have an invasive plant there, and hopefully they can replace it with something that's not going to choke out that little stream. Another good thing about Plant Right is the alternatives that they give you. So again, if you go to their website, they'll give you suggestions for other plants that have the same shape or form, or will give you the same look in your yard. So here for green fountain grass, they suggest planting pink muley grass, which is really pretty, California fescue, and some other options here. For pampas grass, they suggest you plant deer grass or forester's reedgrass and some other options. And for the ground ground covers, instead of planting highway ice plant, there's another kind of ice plant, trailing ice plant that will give you the same look, but not be as invasive. And for Vinca major or periwinkle, you can instead plant star jasmine, for example. It kind of has the same look, same type of leaves, very pretty, and will not be as invasive as periwinkle. So go to plantright.com for more information. It's a very, very helpful website. Okay, so that concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to take any questions or hear any comments from anybody at this time.
Thank you, Ellen. That was an excellent presentation. There were not any questions typed into the chat box, and I invite the participants, if you have a question, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, it's Melissa. This was very valuable for me because I'm in Paradise, and I didn't know what some of these were, but I sure have seen them. The other thing I see a lot of is that weed that has the 5 yellow flowers around the top, like fields of it, and our neighbor's lot is full of it. And I remember before the fire, the county used to come and spray it. And do you know anything about that one?
I don't know what plant you're referring to.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Okay, that's fine. I just thought I'd ask about that. It seems like all of this stuff is pretty hard to get rid of. And so I'm not surprised to hear that, Bill.
Melissa, this is Karina, the program coordinator for the Master Gardener program. If you want, you can take a picture of the plant you're talking about and email it to the hotline.
Oh, okay.
And we'll be able to take some time to research that for you.
Okay, I'll do that. I'm kind of, you know, I kind of would like to know at least how to manage it if it comes into my yard, which I do have some of it, and I just try to pull it out, but it's not effective. It just comes back.
Yeah.
So I'll do that. Thank you, Katrina.
Thank you, Karina. Any other comments from other Paradise people about what plants you think are a problem?
I have a question. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm not a Paradise person. I'm a Butte Creek person, but we got a lot of similar problems. And so my question is that hotline that you're talking about. Can you put that in the chat so I can see? Because we have some areas behind us on the cliff underneath Lookout Point, and there are just these little sections of plants, and we go, this does not look native. It's not exactly our property. It's sort of in nowhere land. I'm sure it's somebody's property, but nobody's going to do anything about it. And but we don't know what they are, and I would love to know about that hotline.
Okay. Can you see this last chart on the screen?
Yes.
They're both there, the email and the phone numbers.
Oh, got it. Thank
Yeah.
you. I will take a screenshot of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate.
Perfect. Thanks. And great presentation.
Thank you.
I don't know why you were nervous, because you've been so great.
Okay, well, I guess that's it then.
If there are no more questions, this is Kay. I'm the voice from the side here that you can't see me, but I'm sitting next to Ellen, and I've worked with her while she put this together, and I'd like to thank her as a new master gardener, overcoming her fears and doing this fabulous job. She did a tremendous amount of research, and she's very personal with it, as you can tell, because she's out there pulling it out and cutting it down. So I want to thank her very much.
Thank you, Kay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
All right. So